Hi, my name is Tova Friedman, and I am a Holocaust survivor. I was a child of 6 when I was in Auschwitz. If you have any questions at all, I would love to answer them.
And I'm very pleased to say that Tova Friedman, the author of The Daughter of Auschwitz, is here with us now. Tova Friedman, it's wonderful to have you with us. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's an honor.
Honor's all ours. So you mentioned there in your TikTok that you want anyone to ask you any questions. What question do you get asked the most about your time there?
People are asking me about how did I recuperate? How did I recover? How was I able to have a normal life after such a terrible, terrible childhood? And they ask me things like, what message do I have for the other? Those are young people who are asking questions. What messages do I have? Wonderful questions, very, very sensitive. It warms my heart of the questions. Some of them as many as 200 a day or something.
People want to find out your story. They want to hear.
These are young people.
Well,
that's what's wonderful. Young people. My grandson's age, who's 17, Aaron, who did this TikTok for me.
So tell us your story then, Ms. Friedman.
My story?
Tell us about how you ended up in Auschwitz.
Well, many things happened before Auschwitz. I lost almost my entire family, except my mother and father. And I had no siblings. And at the age of 5.5, my mother and father went on a, this is in Poland, right after liberation, when
so
we went back home
1945?
To find family. Okay, and here is the picture of the Russian army took it. They were shocked to see children being tattooed. So here we are. And do you see those 2 little children standing next to me?
Yeah.
I just met them a few years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, and one of them was a teacher of one of my grandchildren.
My goodness.
In New Jersey. It was like mind-boggling. Her name is Sarah. And how could you become a teacher? In other words, there are a lot of miracles here. Yeah. That's how I feel.
So take us back then. So you were 5 years old and you were living in Poland, right?
Right, exactly. In Poland, in a labor camp. And they put us on the train and the cattle cars. And at 5.5, I end up in Auschwitz. My father goes to Dachau, but he gets tattooed before he is sent to Dachau. And when we arrive, we get the first thing they do, they take our clothes away and they shave our heads. Right. So here I was, and then I and my mother went straight into the barracks, and we got a middle, like I called it a shelf, like a bed. But the miracle is that most 99.9 children of that age were taken straight to the crematorium. Never even got into a barrack. Straight from the train. There was a miracle.
I mean, and this is why it's so important to tell these stories, because, I mean, obviously you know the story, I know the story because I've read the books, but many people don't understand when in the war this happened and how it happened. I mean, this is towards the end of the war, isn't it? This is when you were taken.
Well, yes, this is in 1944.
Right.
I would say 6 months, 7 months before the end of the war, because this was around July, I think, and January 1945, the Allies came.
And this happened to your family at that point in the war, but of course the Nazis had begun this many years before. Way
before. That's what's so scary, right. It started almost with the Nuremberg laws, the laws about a Jew can't do this, you can't do that, you can't get married, you can't walk on the sidewalk, you can't go to the library, on and on and on and on.
And that was the persecution that started in the 30s. But then once the war broke out and once they decided how they wanted to try and deal with people, then they began the mass killings.
Sorry?
They began the mass killing of people in...
Mass killing. When they entered our town, which is at Tomaszów Mazowiecki, just give you an idea. The beginning of the war, there were 15,000 Jews living in that town. At the end of the war, 1945, 300 were left.
It's just incredible.
Yeah, the others were killed. just murdered. There were thousands and hundreds of children, Jewish children, because the families were very large. At the end of the war, 5 were left, 5 children. I was the youngest. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine the enormity of the murder.
So tell us, once the war broke out and you were living in that town in Poland, did you understand what was happening in other parts?
No.
So you had no idea that what may be coming
I was a year old when the war broke out. But I did understand afterwards that we're living in a ghetto, in a very crowded place, and there was no room for me. Mm-hmm. So I sort of lived under the table a lot, most of the time. I slept there, I ate there for space and for safety, because they were killing children. They were walking into homes, finding elderly and children. Those were the 2 populations that they were murdering right away in 1940, 41. As soon as they came to a town, those were the targets.
And it was industrialized. They put people on trains, they carted them away, and it was a process that the Nazis were
exactly.
Which is what's so horrific about it.
Some of them were not on the most of them were on the train, on the cattle cars to the extermination camps. But many of them were shot right there. My grandmother was shot right there, and I think the parents of my father were also killed right in town. They had made this mass graves, and the people were standing naked, and they were shot in the back, and the children also, and they fell into the grave. That was in the very beginning. Later on, the trains came because Hitler had to hurry up. He was sort of seeing the beginning of the end, and he wanted to speed up the process.
So tell us about the time when they came for you, they came to take you away and take you. At that moment when they came to take you and they put you on a train to Auschwitz, tell us about that moment.
We just went. I thought that I heard about Auschwitz, I heard about Treblinka. I was 5 and a half. I was very well educated, although I wasn't sure exactly, but I knew whoever went there didn't come back. So we walked to the train. As far as I know, I was the only child because the other children were already taken away.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you remember what it was like walking to that train? Were there people screaming and crying? Were there people organised? I mean, how did it feel on that walk? Because we see it in documentaries, we see it depicted in films. But
in films.
To be there...
I'll tell you, my parents were crying. My father was crying. My father was crying and hugging me and telling me to be good. My mother was holding me very tightly. And it was a type of a resignation because everybody was going there, and my mother had lost her entire family. She didn't know what happened to them. Inside the train, well, we was there for 36 hours. No food, no drink, no place to go to the bathroom except where you stood. That's when the screaming and crying was inside the train. People were hysterical. The women were hysterical. In fact, it was so terrible, such a bedlam inside that I tried to talk to my mother. She couldn't hear me. You know, I kept saying, I need to go to the bathroom, I wanted to tell her. It didn't occur to me that I should go where I'm standing. She didn't hear a word.
Why would it? You're a child. I mean...
You know, so inside, and many people died inside the cattle car in 36 hours from diseases, from starvation, from fear, from terror. Because we knew, or they all knew, I knew less as a child, but they knew that they're going, this is the last trip of their lives.
So tell me about when you get to Auschwitz then.
When I got to Auschwitz.
When you actually arrived there.
The door opened. The first thing that I got petrified were the dogs. You know, the German shepherds, they were my height. I was looking at them, they were looking at me. I could even see the saliva falling out of their mouth. And I said to my mother, they're going to eat me, they're going to kill me. And she said, no, they only train to kill if you run. So she told me the truth. Then I said, what is the smell? There was such a weird smell. She said, those are the burning bodies. She didn't lie to me, she told it to me. We were undressed, every one of us, naked, standing there. And I saw women standing like couples with two, all the way out. I said, what are they doing? She says they're checking to make sure that we're healthy. Those that aren't healthy go up there. She pointed to the gas chamber. She pointed it to me. And I kept saying, am I healthy? I remember. She said, yes, you look okay. And I said, what about you? She said, I am okay. And she went like this to make us...
To get some colour in her
because
face.
the selections were there at the state. They selected you the moment you got off the train. And they made a decision, life or death, right there. And it was a miracle that I wasn't killed because all children... useless. Kids were useless. All elderly, all children were useless. But I got into Auschwitz instead, into the barracks.
And this is around 44, so the war obviously...
44,
This
yeah.
war's coming to an end, so, I mean, I guess it's fortunate that the war was at that end point.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't time for them to kill people.
No, there was. Oh, no. They speeded up, just the opposite. They speeded up like crazy. They killed, all the Hungarians were killed around that time. All the gypsies were gassed at that time. All the people who came from other camps. At the last few months, I would say 5 or 6 months, they speeded up the machine because they didn't want to leave any witnesses and they didn't want to leave any Jews, both. Any gypsies, any gay people, anything that wasn't perfect that they thought would be. So the machine speeded up.
So what's your message then to people who are asking you questions online?
My message is that Auschwitz is the last solution or it's what happens if we do not stop evil before. I feel it's like cancer. If you have a cell that's cancerous, and that's what I think of evil, as a cancerous cell. Unless you kill it from the very beginning, if you let it go, the whole body dies. If you let evil continue on this earth, evil, prejudice, all and the hatred of the other, the one that you don't understand or don't know because of color, because of religion, because of sexual orientation, because of different from you. If you want to get rid of the other, someday you also will be the victim. And that the main thing is when you see the beginning of evil, it's your obligation to help stop it.
Well, there's that phrase in the first they came.
The first, exactly,
that
saying, yeah.
So when you see what's happening in Europe right now with the invasion of Ukraine...
In Europe, yeah.
I mean, that
very scary. Very, very scary. And I would love to see people marching for freedom, marching for tolerance. I like to see that. I like to see people young people walking out of classes of schools, out of colleges, and marching for stopping hatred.
Why don't you think we've seen more of that? Do you think that people have forgotten they're not listening to stories like this enough? They're not reading enough books or watching enough documentaries to educate themselves? Why do you think that people haven't been...
Why the people haven't? It's very, very hard to... I'm a therapist. It's very hard to get it. You know, whenever things aren't great, people are always looking for scapegoat. It's just scapegoat. I think we have to educate people about scapegoats. Scapegoating is not a solution. You will not feel better if the other person is killed. You will not be richer if they lose all their money, maybe for a little bit, but your soul will die with every person that you cause his death.
Humanity gets poorer as well. All of us lose. OK, Tova Friedman, just finally then, you know you've got your TikTok channel where you speak to people directly. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I'd like to see more people like my grandson.
Okay.
You know, who high school, you know, he's high school kid, and he reached as many as 50 million young people. And now he has educated them about Holocaust and about the evils. And he lets me talk, and then they ask questions, and he answers them because he's also very knowledgeable, and I answer them. I would like to see people doing that, young people with a conscience that...
Because there's been a growth recently of people who say that it didn't happen.
Exactly. That's why I have my number. That's why...
You have the number?
Yeah. That's why, here, this is what used to be my name, 27,633. I was not, I was not a person. I was a number. And do you know why? Because it's easier to kill a number than a person. Just easier. If you are Jack, it's hard for me to kill Jack. But if you are 25, it's easier for me to kill 25. That's what they did. They took away our hair, our clothing, our families, and they branded us.
Tova Friedman, it's just been
So
amazing.
if there were more people like Aaron, my grandson,
Who set up your TikTok?
all over, doing it on TikTok, speaking in colleges, maybe. It's the young people we have to target. It's the young.
Okay, Tova Friedman, I'm humbled to hear your story and to see you in such great health and vitality, and I wish you a long life.
I want to thank you. It's people like you, by the way. No. That you have to take credit. It's people like you who will show it to other people. I don't know how many people watch this program.
I mean, I don't know.
A lot, right? A lot.
I hope so.
It's your words, people like you, and what you say and what you present right here can make a difference.
No, it certainly
So
can.
I want to give you a lot of credit for doing it. I want to thank you.
Thank you for telling your story again, Ms. Friedman, Tova Friedman, whose book, The Daughter of Auschwitz.
The Daughter of Auschwitz.
Is available. And you can find you on TikTok.
Yes.
Excellent. Ms. Friedman, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.